person I'm aware of that holds patents in all three systems. If you missed it, go check it out. The three types of magnetic motor systems are the imbalance system, which is the most common, the induction expulsion system, and the exchange force pole system. Each of these systems can be built in linear or rotary motor assemblies. In this video, I will be focusing on the exchange force pole system. It's glaringly obvious the first time you run a magnetic cart down a track past an arrangement of magnets that the force equals out, giving you zero gain. I call it the spring effect. Sometimes you can even get to within an inch of full rotation. This I call the 1-inch barrier. In a conservative field, the total line integral around a standard loop equals zero. A perfect system cannot produce any more out than you put in, meaning that configuring a wheel with magnets and running it past a magnetic stator assembly, without employing some type of shielding, spin flipping, or methodology for imbalancing the magnetic flux between your rotor and stator assembly, will not produce continuous rotation. The fields will always seek an area of low resistance and come to a stop. What you need to get beyond this is a non-equilibrium steady-state system. This is a system that uses the steady stream of electron flow from the magnets like a sail uses the wind for motion. However, the electron spins of a magnet are a bit more complicated. It's understood in spintronics that there is a small particle in a magnet that is opposite charged to the pole it is emanating from. This particle's effect can be perceived at right angles of the moving electron. Howard Johnson's work focused on this principle, and he managed to utilize it in some of his designs. What he was actually tapping into is called the exchange force pulse. This is a magnetic field of greater value and strength than the magnetic field it emanates from. Feynman discusses the exchange force pulse in 3 of his volumes of physics. The exchange force pulse is achieved by flipping the spin of a magnet at just the right moment using exact configurations of magnets and magnetic materials. This gives you a momentary pulse of energy, nearly 400 to 500 times the strength of the normal field of the magnet. So to explain the exchange force pulse, I should first explain some basics, and then I will explain what spin accelerators are. Let's dial it back to the very basic to start with, though. This is a standard magnet. Most of the textbook diagrams of a magnetic field that emanates from it look something like this. However, Howard Johnson discovered a sophisticated way to map magnetic fields and discovered that the actual field looks more like this. The fields of the magnet are actually electron spins. These spins are usually more dominant on one side of the magnet than they are on the other. In between these spins is what's known as the Bloch wall. This is the neutral center of the magnet where the magnetic field is zero. John Bedini refers to it as the delta zero. Howard Johnson designed magnetic assemblies that effectively moved the Bloch wall of the magnet. For example, by capping the north side of the magnet with a neodymium magnet, it moves the Bloch wall, weakening the south pole of the magnet while strengthening the north. Johnson was a master of crafting complex magnetic assemblies that moved magnetic fields around in precise placements and strengths. He could cancel out one magnetic field, strengthen another, modulate a magnetic wave pattern with ease. His assemblies are unique and bear little resemblance to anyone else's work relating to magnetic motors. And here's where things get really interesting. Howard Johnson knew how to momentarily flip the spin of a magnet, effectively making a north a south and a south a north. The way that he did this was by combining magnets on an armature composed of different magnetic materials into configurations that would trigger an exchange force pulse when another magnet came within close proximity of this armature. Most of his tracks were composed of neodymium, ceramic, and rubber magnets. Sometimes his cart magnets were Alnico magnets tipped with neos, and sometimes he used ferrite instead of ceramic. Discovering his exact configurations of magnets, their size, shape, and orientations, is the key to understanding how he accomplished his spin-flipping methods. Spin accelerators were used in most, if not all, of Howard Johnson's spin-flipping devices. Spin accelerators are magnetic assemblies used for crowding the magnetic fields at predetermined positions of a magnetic track. If built correctly, each spin accelerator will fire an exchange force pulse directly at the cart or rotor, accelerating it with each burst as the cart or rotor crosses a succession of them. By attracting a magnetic cart or rotor to a stator magnet and then flipping the spin at the Bloch wall of the stator magnet, you can expel the magnetic cart or rotor at an accelerated rate, eliminating your back MMF. So this is not perpetual motion. There are several possible ways you can do this. Howard Johnson employed various methodologies for spin flipping over the years. Most utilize similar magnetic materials, but oriented in different patterns. The idea was for the arrangements of magnets in the stator assembly to trigger an exchange force pulse as an armature magnet passed by. To build a system like this on an assembly line would require high-quality, precision-tested magnets. Standard magnets vary too much in field strength and have a great deal of defects in the magnetization process. Thus, they won't work well in an exchange force pulse assembly. It would also require precision cutting and shaping of the magnets and exacting detailed assemblies that would require specialized manufacturing processes to put them together properly. So how do you properly test an exchange force pulse system to know if it's operating correctly? There are several methods. You could field test the track in a lab and determine the magnetic flux density of the fields along the track in Gauss units. If the Gauss reading shows a steady increase in strength along the track, then that's proof positive that your assembly works. You could build 2 tracks and see if the first track accelerates the cart enough to break through the repulsion at the entrance to the next track. If the cart passes successfully between the 2 tracks without any decrease in speed, then that's a good indication that your assembly works. You could use a high-speed camera to determine if your cart is accelerating as it moves through the track. If the cart is receiving a steady flow of exchange force pulses, it should be increasing in speed as it journeys down the track. The most simple method is to restart the cart at various locations in your track and to see if it still accelerates completely out of your track without being pulled back in. If this works through several spin accelerator assemblies, double the size of your track. If it continues to work without any noticeable deceleration, then it's time to arc the geometry of your magnetic assembly and build a rotary version. There are so few people on YouTube that are experimenting with Howard Johnson's spin accelerator assemblies besides myself that I thought I would share a couple of short clips by YouTube user FlexRaptor. He does some really nice clean builds, very nicely constructed. And notice that he checks his flat track assemblies by restarting his cart at different locations on his track to show that it still works, and is not simply exhibiting what I refer to as the spring effect before attempting to build a rotary assembly. Very few people experimenting with these types of assemblies know to do that. So my hat is off to him, and I recommend his channel. Fully understanding Johnson's work requires more than a basic understanding of physics. I can't speak for you, but I'm definitely not there yet. But the key to getting there is to learn something new every day and put what you learn into practice. Always keep moving forward. Thanks for watching. Join me next time when I will cover the third and final type of permanent magnetic motor force system, the induction expulsion system. Do great things.